your host, Kay, also known as Indie Strings on Ravelry. So this is take 3. Hopefully it works out. I'm having some audio issues. Last week was a little bit quiet as well, so I'll work on those hopefully. And I wanted to start off this episode by doing a little thing different. So if you're a new viewer, thanks for checking me out. And this is a little bit backwards of how I usually do it, but I have some stuff to talk about. We have some giveaways that are going on in the group, and we're going to have a cow. And so the first thing that I talked about last week is for the first 10 people who leave a iTunes review for me, and I'm not saying that it has to be anything more than a star. If you could write a comment, that would be wonderful, but, if not, that's okay too. But if you could go out and do that for all your podcasters, if you could, it really helps us out. I only have 3 right now, and I would like to have more. Because I need to have enough to actually get an average star rating, so that when you search like knitting podcasts or anything like that, I actually pop up. And so to encourage that, I'm going to do giveaways. For every 10 people, we'll do a new skein of yarn. So there's 7 more people left that could enter this giveaway, and I'm going to offer up, this is some of my hand spun. It is pigeon roof, and it is merino, superwash merino, and silk. I don't remember the colorway name. It's about 200 yards of a worsted weight. It is Navajo plied, which means that it's a 3-ply, and you basically chain ply that back on itself so the colors all stay together. So there is some barb pulling, but not a lot. So let me get that over my face, maybe it'll focus. But it's beautiful. I really, really love it. It's great as a hat or mittens or something like that. Great small 200-yard project. So once we reach the 10 people of the reviews, we will do a giveaway. Isn't that great? So that's the first thing going on. So after you leave a rating, if you could just PM me on Rav and let me know you did it, that'd be great. For the 3 people who already left me reviews, they did it previously, they are going to be entered to win this game. All right, so the next thing that we have to talk about is what we're going to do for April. April is Autism Awareness Month, and I really want to do something for Autism Awareness Month for quite a while. I usually don't talk about my personal life in a lot of detail on the podcast, and I'm kind of struggling with how to do it. But my wonderful 5-year-old daughter has ASD, which is Autism Spectrum Disorder. So we are affected by autism on a daily basis. And I just don't want to get too emotional. I struggle with talking about it because I don't want anybody to see her as different, because she's not. She's a wonderful, happy, smart, funny, sometimes just over the top little kid. And she's highly functioning. She's so lucky. She's smart, but she has ASD. And ASD awareness, or autism awareness, is important. It's in the news all the time now about how prevalent it is and how many kids are being diagnosed with this. And for me, it's just so personal. I really have exposure to it on one level, which is my daughter. And I want to help other people. It is a scary, hard process. And so what I decided is, for the month of April, we'll have a knit-along. And every week I'll talk about an aspect of ASD. And the thing that always resonates with me is that they're not less, they're just different. And I'll kind of go into that and explain it from my point of view this month. But along that line, let's go into figuring out my kid had ASD. So My daughter was between the ages of 2 and 2.5. She still really wasn't talking. And she had reached the age of 2. I kind of made a bargain with myself as a mom. And at 2, they're supposed to have this amazing explosion of language, right? And it wasn't happening. So I decided at 2.5, still it hadn't kind of clicked in, that we would go and try to figure out if something was wrong. And at 2.5, she really wasn't talking. And that's not to say she wasn't communicating. She is devious and very, very smart. She doesn't really comprehend language in the same way. I mean, now, fast forward several years later of therapy and working on it on a daily basis, and she talks and she can ask questions and communicate. But during that time period, it's so hard to explain. She was so engaged with you, and you could tell that she was trying to figure out what you were saying, but couldn't. And it was heartbreaking to not be able to talk to your child. I mean, she could say, I love you. I mean, she could hardly say dad for a long time. And it was really hard. I think in the beginning, it's always hard to get over yourself. I mean, I had a child, my husband would agree, become part of our life. And when we decided to have a child, it became our responsibility to be the best that we could be. Now, I'm not saying we're not going to make a lot of mistakes. Make a lot of mistakes. But it's our duty to give that child the best life we can and to give the tools to that child to succeed. So it was really along that path that we continually thought. And I thought, I have to face this, whatever it is. And so we started down the path. So in the beginning, I had an assessment done, and the assessment basically put her as developmental delay. I think they call it PDD, pediatric developmental delay, because she wasn't talking. So okay, we did that for about 6 months. And then the system is difficult to transverse. Honestly, I mean, there's a lot of state help. There's a lot of different groups that'll offer therapy and help you, but there's like an overwhelming bounds of information. A lot of it was tied to what exactly was the problem. PDD is very broad. I mean, you could have a developmental delay for anything, really, if you think about it. And because it's just this broad category, I was feeling overwhelmed at trying to identify the different sources that I could tap into to basically get the services that my child needed. So we went to a doctor, a specialist that is a developmental pediatrician. Didn't know those existed. Now I do. I have one. See, my daughter has one. And went and got her tested. And that's when she was officially diagnosed with autism. It was a hard day. I really struggled for years to put into words what it was like. And I think the biggest thing I can say is that we fear. Those first few years were awful. A crushing weight of fear. I had people tell me that my daughter would never go into society. Probably couldn't go to school. People tell me that they didn't know if she would ever have friends. I still have people tell me that they don't think that she's socially capable of friendship. Not to mention of being an adult. You bring in being an adult into the situation, and the things that they will tell you or won't tell you are terrifying. How are you supposed to plan a life for someone you love so much and you have no idea? So anyone who's in that boat, I'm sorry. Hard. Sorry. Getting a little emotional. It was a hard time. But it gets better. And there are people out there that will help you and tell you how to help your family, to help your child. Now it's not so bad. I mean, I still have people tell me that they don't know what her future holds. Of course, no one does. But I've met some really great people who are able to tell me things like, my daughter's 24 and has autism, and she's in college. One lady has a daughter who's 30 and has a PhD. And it's not that I'm so self-focused on my daughter becoming a doctor or going to school, but at the same time, I want her to have opportunities. I had people telling me they didn't ever know if she would live unassisted. I mean, going from thinking I have a quote-unquote normal, right, kid, being told you don't know if your kid will ever be able to function in society or be able to live without assistance is quite shocking. So that's I guess I had to put on my big girl pants and get her a lot of help. And why I'm telling you all of this is for that maybe one person that's watching. It gets better. It gets easier. It really, really does. But you have to get your kid help. My kid can talk. She knows her alphabet. She's starting to read. She can count up to 30. She's going into kindergarten. They're mainstreaming her. And if I wouldn't have gotten her help, there is no way she would be able to be in a mainstream school. I love my child more than anything else. She is amazing. And she's smart. And having autism to us is not a deficit. It's not a negative. Um, the only time that we had the feeling that it was at a point where we didn't know if she was going to be able to have options in her life. She was going to be able, we were going to be able to teach her the skills to be able to make decisions, so she could ultimately grow up to be a happy, healthy woman. And those things have been slowly restored to us. And the confidence that we can do that has been returned. And she is wonderful. I wish that I could have her meet each and every one of you so that any kind of perception you have could be shattered. She really does touch the heart of everybody that meets that little sink pot. And I'm lucky. If you were to ask us today if we would take away autism from our daughter, if we could, we would tell you no. It makes her who she is. And by an extension, it has made us who we are. It changed me. Unbelievably changed me. I became a better person, a stronger person that I would never have done without it. For her, she looks at the entire world different. Everything is different to her. Things that I never dreamed or imagined or conceived of, she tells me about. And it's like she's, I don't want to say in another world because that makes her seem like she's unattached to us. But her entire view of what life is, of what everything is tilted. And it's an honor. It's an honor to be her mother. So, enough of that. Woo! Crying a little bit, sorry. So anyways, that's the first part. Sorry, I know that's not anything about knitting, and it's a lot about me and my family. But in honor of autism, autism awareness, and my daughter, we're going to have an knit-along. So a lot of stuff to talk about in knit-along, isn't it? So autism in the USA has an organization, National Autism Awareness, or I'm sorry, I'll look up the name for you, but their color is blue. So in honor of this, let's have a blue cow, and then along to the month of April. And what we'll do is knit anything blue. Big, small, crochet it, sorry, I shouldn't just say knit, craft. Crochet, weave it, spin it, whatever. As long as it's with fiber, and as long as it's blue, we're good to go. And predominantly blue. And what I mean by that is I need to look at it and see blue in the finished objects thread. So we'll post this knit along in the Ravelry group. I will open up a pattern thread and a finished object thread. I'll have to post the finished object in that group, and you need to be a member of the group to participate. For this as well, I have a skein of yarn that I'm going to give away. So look at this blue. Isn't it so pretty? It's a really clear blue. And this is kind of lightening it out. It's more saturated than the first time. This skein of yarn is up for grabs as one of the prizes. And it is Merino Light 230 yards of fussy. So, and Merino Light, I believe it is 100% merino. And it's actually from a club colorway. And when I got this, woo! The first thing I thought was autism color. That blue. So this is the prize for that cal as well. The cal will run the entire month of April, and I'll close it on May 1st. So what that means is that I'm gonna cast something on, and I'm gonna wait because I am not a cheater. Something you should know about me, not cheat. And so I'm going to knit with this bit of loveliness. This has been in my stash for 3 years. That's just a long time. So this is, I gotta read, the Woolen Rabbit, and it is in her lace weight, 80% merino, 20% silk, and the colorway is 8. And I'm going to knit a lacy shawl. Isn't that pretty? I have a ton of shawls. I have DK weight shawls and worsted weight shawls, and I got a lot of stuff in my wardrobe. But I have never knit myself a lace weight shawl. So this will be for me. And I'll think about how lucky I am. I guess that's what I would like to impart in part of this gal. Autism awareness, yes, that they're wonderful people. And I don't see it as a disability. I see it as part of them. I guess it's before this whole thing happened to me, you would have asked me, and you didn't know anybody with autism, what I thought about autism. I would have told you it was a disability. But it's not, at least not in our case. We are so lucky and blessed. And we're fortunate that it's not. It can be coupled with other things, but we don't have that experience. So I'm going to be knitting a lace shawl with this. I'm excited about it. I'm really excited. So that is everything that's going on. Okay. So let's actually move on to what I've done this week after we're 20 minutes in. Oh, sorry, guys. So I have some finished objects, and we're going to start out with them because, dang it, if I am not one proud lady. So the first thing that I finished is the blanket. Are you surprised? I'm almost surprised. I'm a little surprised. I finished it. I'm so excited. So it's washed and blocked, and all the ends are woven in. And it ended up being 62 by 51 or 50. And this is a small section of it. Isn't it so pretty? I do love it. So I'm going to do a little review. This is the Hourglass Throw by Ann Hansen. And I knit it out of Lion Woolies, which is a 80% acrylic and 20% wool. So when I started knitting this shawl, there's a few things about it, or not shawl, blanket, sorry. The first skein that I had of the Woolies had a knot. Now, if you don't know, industry standard is 3 knots per skein is considered acceptable. And I hadn't knit with Woolies in like, it was a long time, if ever. I think that I bought one skein, but I never knit with it. So I never knit with Woolies. And I was a bit concerned that every skein would have multiple ones. And although that is industry standard, and it's like I didn't get up in a huff about it, all I could think was, oh my gosh, if I have 3 knots per skein, how many more ends is that going to be to weave in? That was my only thought. So after that first skein, and I used 8 skeins on this project, I didn't have another knot. So it must have been just a fluke. And so I would recommend Woolies. I got it at Joann's, and it was a really great experience. It had enough wool in it to have a little give and bounce. That's the thing that I always struggle with when I knit like really thick cotton or I knit acrylic, is it doesn't have any give. Like wool has elasticity and bounce and all of these good characteristics, and when I knit with acrylic, or 100% acrylic, a lot of that is lost because it's not wool. So the 20% wool gave it enough of those characteristics that I still enjoyed it. And I shouldn't say it softened up, but it feels nice. And for me, like when I think of acrylic, I think of acrylic that my grandma or my great aunts used to crochet with. And a lot of that acrylic is, I shouldn't say not around, but it has really improved in the quality. And this acrylic is much nicer than I ever remembered. So I would knit with it again. I do have some other stuff coming up that I'm going to knit with an acrylic blend, I think. Big present. And this is my second blanket, but definitely my biggest blanket. My other blanket was 1,100 yards, and it was just a lap blanket for my in-laws. So this one was 1,600, and I used all the yarn that I had. This is what is left of my last skein. So I really did use all 8 skeins. And I had a little bit more than the pattern called for, I think, and I still used it all. But my gauge should have been off because I really didn't care. I didn't measure it, sorry. So this is the edging as well, which is a nice rib, and I really love how it went up into the pattern. And it's bordered by these cables that go all the way up. It was a very well thought out, well charted pattern. The cable repeat was easy to memorize. It was quite large. It was 42 different rows, I believe, maybe 30 rows. But 15 of that you basically were repeating it but shifting it over until really you didn't have to remember that much. The second thing is that on rows where you had these center cable crossings in this motif, you were also doing the cable crossings at the edges. So they did line up. So I didn't have any cables that were, a 6-row cable repeat and an 8-row cable repeat. Well, really, you never can match those up. You're always going to be crossing different cables at different times. This pattern did have the cables crossing at the same time, which was very, very nice. Both sides were charted, but it wasn't as difficult as it sounds. The rest rows, let me go back for a second. When you're knitting lace, you have your right-sided row, which you're knitting lace across it, which is all in patterns typically. You can have what's basically called easy lace, which has you knitting across that right-sided row, and then when you turn your work around the wrong side, you purl all the way back across it. So it's called a rest row because you're not looking at a chart and you're not doing any patterning. This did not have a rest row, although the rest row, the wrong side of the work, wasn't necessarily difficult. You knitted the knit stitches and you purled the purl stitches. amounts of ribbon with cables in it. But there is a lot of ribbing in there. And so if you hate ribbing, might not be the project for you, although I do find that the end product is totally worth it. So I wouldn't say they were necessarily difficult, and I wouldn't say that I totally had to look at the chart for those rows, but I wasn't purling or not thinking at all either. I would knit the pattern again, and it is a taper pattern. I believe it's 650. So the next thing that I finished two things, I suppose. So I finished this sweater, which is the drifting sweater. It is knit out of red bicycle yarn, and her 50% merino, 50% silk colorway in the Road to China. This was a 12 colorway, and she is no longer dying. So this pattern is the drifting by Cecily McDonald, I believe. And this is the back, so you can get a good idea of the color. And I'm just going to try to drape the front. It's basically supposed to be an open cardigan that's just supposed to hang down. Your front flaps actually are quite long, and they're just supposed to hang, and it almost has a curved shape down there. So, it sat on the needles for forever. I don't know if anybody has been watching me a long time. I started this, oh gosh, last year. Probably been sitting for like 10 months, and all I had to do was just wait. So I got it out after I finished the blanket, and I'm like, I'm going to finish something else, because finishing that blanket was like amazing. It felt so good. So I picked it up, and the sleeves are super short, knitted it out, did the ribbing, and then I did all of the finishing on it. Now the finishing wasn't bad. The only thing for me was it was a lot of ends to weave in comparably. Because on this project I alternated skeins, my skeins were very different. I had one that had a lot more orange, and then another one that had a lot more red. So I did intersperse them because I couldn't get away with just one skein. And so you knit top down, you separate for the sleeve, and then you have this line here. Then right after you separate for the sleeve, you cast on some stitches underneath, and you pick this up right here, that line, and then you knit down. This caused me to break the yarn. Like, I had to break it 2 or 3 times in this pattern to knit this sweater. And so I did have like 16, 18 ends to weave in on it, like a tiny sweater. It was a lot. But it didn't take me long. I don't mind weaving in ends, but at the same time, there was a lot for this project. I don't know. I'm just trying to be full disclosure, right? I do really like it. I will wear this mostly with dresses. And I am super excited to wear it for the summer, for sure. It's like springtime, and it's starting to feel nice, and I'm very excited about it. Funny story, I was walking out of the bed, and my daughter came in, and she's like, can I help you? And I'm like, well, of course you can help me. And she's like, you're making a sweater. And I said, yes, I am. She's like, it's a sweater for mommy. And I'm like, how can you tell? Because it's big. Thanks. I'm bigger than you, right? Yeah. So that is what I finished. It had such a productive week, and really it feels like I've been gone for like 2 or 3 weeks, and I never get this much done. So that means that I cast something on you. So basically the deal I made with myself, I don't know if you guys remember, kind of, I guess you could call it a goal, is that I have a bin of unfinished objects, and most of them I don't want to rip out. I do really want to finish them, but I lost my mojo. And now I can tell you, not only was work unbelievably stressful, probably one of the worst situations of my life, but I also had an autistic daughter who has therapy, and we have team meetings and all of that goodness, and doctor's appointments, and wow, there's a lot of stuff to do for her. So it was like a double whammy in my life, which is part of the reason why it's such a huge break. To get everything done that needed to get done and kind of survive the storm. I'm sorry, my sweater is super bothering me. So I cast something on though, and I'm on a new project in like a month and a half since that blank day. It's been a really long time. Usually I rotate stuff quicker than that so I can, have the fun of taking stuff out. So I'm doing the Foolproof KAL in the Inspirational Knit Ravelry group. And that is a group for the designer of the Foolproof pattern. So that KAL, I believe, runs from, in April. So you're going to say, hey, Kaylee, totally cheated. You said you weren't a cheater, and you cheated, and you totally kept on early. The designer did put in that thread that you could start early. So I did. I wanted to wait for our KAL that we're having for autism awareness, and I wanted to wait till April to cast on with all of you, and I couldn't take not knitting on something. And I needed something somewhat brainless, because let me tell you, I have gymnastics and swim lessons and everything else, and if I don't have something brainless to knit during that, and I just have to sit there, it's rough. I can't just sit there anymore. I have to be knitting. So I cast on, and I cast on in Pick and Rue. So this is what I have so far. So this is a one-off colorway. I believe the solid light lavender color is a one-off, an odd skein that I got. She did have some requests for it, and this is, goodness, I guess it was a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. I believe when it happened, she did end up figuring out a very close color, and that's repeatable for her. So if you do like it, she does have something that should satisfy. It's a beautiful lavender color. And then I paired it with this variegated colorway called Mystical. So this is her fingering weight, which is an 80% merino, and I think it's a 20% nylon. I'm sorry, let me read the tag. 400 yards. It doesn't tell me. It doesn't tell me the composition of the yarn. I'm sorry. It's superwash merino, so it must be 100% superwash merino. So I showed you the back to show you the first. I really, really, really love it. I didn't think I was going to like it this much, but I love it. I shouldn't say terrified. That's awful. I was a little bit apprehensive because I didn't know how they would look together. The Mystical colorway, this variegated colorway, is really chock full of colors. And although it has purple in it, the purple is deeper. It's more saturated. And so, tell you, it's got purple, brown, teal, and a green in it. And a touch of pink, it looks like. So I was apprehensive, but now that I started knitting with them together, they were meant to be together, in my humble opinion. And so I'm showing you the wrong side again. So I finished with, I cannot speak. So the beginning, when this pattern was released last year, and it was last April actually, she had a mystery KAL that ran, and she released them in clues. And the pattern itself is still kind of cataloged that way. It does say clue 1, clue 2, clue 3. So the idea of the KAL for April is that everyone missed it the first time can join in again, and you basically can do a clue a week. Unfortunately, I am not a patient person. This is why I don't do KALs that release a clue a week. Because if I put something down, I'm going to put it down, and I'm probably not going to pick it up to knit a clue and then to put it back down again. So either you're in rotation or you're in timeout. There's really like no middle ground with me and my knitting. So I finished clue 1, and I'm on to clue 2. And I am getting there. I'm super loving it. And I hope to have this almost done next week, if not done. We'll see how it goes. You know me. I promise things and then, I never deliver. At least where knitting's considered. Everywhere else I deliver in my life. But here, it's a hobby. So I am super excited, and I encourage everyone to join this. And I found it because Amy Beth of the Past World knit a few of these. And I really was intrigued by the idea. that it ends up being a cowl, but you don't have to really cast on or bind off. And it loops together and there's no grafting. But you end up with a garter stitch cowl. It's really quite ingenious, and it's totally worth the pay for money. I believe it's $6, and it is a paper pattern. The bag that it's in is the brown dog bag, in this really wonderful loose color. I love her bags. They're big. I really like big bags. Freezing. I like that I can fit, if I wanted to, I could fit a sweater in there. But I really like the bigger bags that most people mark as large project bags or sweater bags for my 2 to 3 skein projects. I like some room, y'all. So I have not been spinning at all this week. I really finished the blanket. I mean, like, seriously, I sat down and I knit only on that. I just wanted it done. And then after that was done, I washed it and all of that jazz. It was my mission. And so I really haven't spun it all. So I have nothing for that. So the next thing is enabling. And so I ordered some Highland Handmaids, and she has a limited edition yarn called Choke Cherry Lace. And it is a 70% kid mohair and 30% silk. So they're really good skeins. Look at how little they are. So this is a gray, and I think she's all out of this gray, but she has one more of this colorway, and it's called and it's really nice in person. It's a very wonderful, like, pinky burgundy. I got these because I have a great idea. I have been looking for this yarn. And this yarn is a very similar composition to Kid Silkade. And this is the only time that she is going, Highland Handmaids is going to carry this yarn with this composition. She got it on a, I guess like a glorified D-staff where somebody was getting rid of some of their stock, undyed stock, and so it came with a cone of this that she purchased. So after this cone is done, she's out, and she's not going to get any more. And she did dye everything on that cone. So if you go to her shop, all that's there is all that's left. These hanks are $12.50 a piece, I think. And to Kid Silkade, I believe is $15. And this has more yardage than Kid Silkade. So you're getting more yardage for less price. And it's pretty stellar, right? I really, really want to knit a hat and put on a pom-pom with this for myself. So who doesn't love a good pom-pom, right? Totally. Dude, you're never too old for a pom-pom, in my opinion. Pom-pom it up. So I want to pom-pom it up, but the only thing that I'm scared about is like the weight of that pom-pom. Now I know some hats really need that weight, but I really don't want it. So my idea is to knit a hat that begs for a pom-pom and do one out of this. This has a lot of mohair in it because it's 70% and mohair. You can start to see if I hold it up. Feel that wonderful fuzz almost? It will really poof in that pom-pom and be very lightweight. So that's what I'm going to do. They were wonderful. They came, as always, she shipped somewhat quickly, and they came fully intact. So I have this week, I have some rants and raves. Pretty much my autism talk was my rants and raves, and I'm sorry that it was at the beginning. I'm sorry I got a little emotional, but it's such a big part of my life that I can't even communicate how much I talk to individuals about my daughter concerning autism. So, on a daily occurrence, let's just say that. She's got a lot of therapists. So, she's seen almost every day by a therapist. Or somebody of some sort giving her some kind of extra assistance to get her up to par to be able to bring this to school. So, I was going to talk about podcasting, and wow, did that go totally up in smoke. I don't have enough time. So what I'm going to do is next week I will talk about dealing with a therapist. One of the best topics, if you have a kid with autism, it was very hard for me to figure out how to be the kind of person I needed to be because I don't like to be mean. And I don't like to be demanding. I like people just to do what they need to do. And, you know, that'd be it. But that's not the world we live in so many cases. And so I will talk about that next week and what I did to appease everybody and appease myself. And I will keep that segment short, and hopefully I'll be able to do podcasting. Basically, I have all the information to be able to do that segment and help anybody in need figure out how to podcast. It'll just be based upon the length of the episode. So that is all due to my hoster. I can only have a file size that's so large uploaded at one time, and so I can't make this super long. I can't. My cutoff is about 45 to 50 minutes. It used to be like 25 to 30, so my hoster is getting better and expanding. However, it's still not as long as, whatever I feel like. So next week, if we're doing good on time, I will do that. I will make a point probably within the next month to get to it. I know someone said they were looking for it because they want to start podcasting. If that person wants to email me, I'm happy to assist them in the particulars because that will be very broad in what you need to do to podcast and how much money it takes or doesn't take, how you can do it free, and what the advantages and disadvantages of that are. Also, all of you people rock hardcore. Just want to tell you that. I hope you have a fantabulous week. And you can think about me this week sitting in a gymnastics gym smelling heat, or in swim practice smelling salty, chlorine, nasty air, mixed with child stinky food, and knitting away on my foolproof shawl, loving it. I'm such a dork. I'm gonna talk to you guys next week. Knit with some love, you guys. Bye.